Good morning. Good morning. You have found us. It is Monday Momentum, Make Some Money, Honey. And today we are going to be talking about a topic very close to our heart, which is, what do you do in case of an emergency when things just don't go as well as could be expected and as you planned? So this morning we're going to be talking with our normal panel and our normal panel of experts from across the country. Right now it is 10 a.m. on the East Coast. I am in Baltimore, Maryland, and I'm going to introduce you right now to Sarah Coolidge coming to you at 7 a.m. from the West Coast. Sarah.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. This is Monday Momentum, and our job today is to get you up and running for the week. We want you, because we know that you work from home probably, or you have a small business, and we want to help you still get up and running so that you finish your week the right way. And so, yeah, it's bright and early because you got to get going bright and early if you're really going to have a successful business. Good for you for getting here.
Absolutely. And next it comes to you from another part of the country is Linda Kay. Good morning, Linda. Where are you coming from, and what's it like where you are?
Good morning, Linda Kay here from the Northeast, lovely New Hampshire. I tell you, it's a crisp day, but I'm not sure that the, the day you're going to be seeing this is really crisp.
Absolutely, that's true. We're not 100% sure about the day you're going to be seeing this. So we're actually going to let you all in on a little secret, our little secret. This is a recording. We're actually doing a recorded episode because we have learned what happens in the case of an emergency. Well, one of us can't be where we thought we would be, and one of us can't attend, and we thought we could, and we don't know what to do. So we've gone back into our bag of tricks, and I think the word that comes to my mind is contingency plan or plan B. And contingency plan and plan B are a big part of my life these days. Ladies, what do you think? Sarah?
I got to tell you that, one of the things that we've learned over our time working together as a group and our time together as entrepreneurs just educating ourselves is you have to be nimble. You have to be able to think on your feet. You have to be able to adjust. And we live in a time where it's great because we can do things like have our hangout a little bit early, share our information, and end up with a recording that then we can give you so that we can provide a consistent service to you even if we can't all get together on Monday morning. So, that's another one of the lessons of entrepreneurship is what are you going to do if something goes wrong? How have you planned for that ahead? What other things could you be doing to be productive while you're waiting for someone else sometimes, or waiting for an answer on a question, or just stuck in traffic? Who knows? Being productive is a big, important part of it for all of us. So, back to you.
Absolutely. I would totally agree. A couple of other things that come to mind are being hasty or being responsive versus reactionary, and having a plan in place. And you all have heard me talk and preach on and drone on about how I firmly believe in having a plan 3 months in advance so that you can prepare. We talked about that a lot in September. Last September 2014, we were discussing the fact that in December, it was Christmas time, and what were we going to do? Well, I firmly believe in that. I think that you have to have incredible foresight. I heard that a lot as a kid when I was learning to drive. It was the aim high in driving, and I kind of think of my business that way as well, aiming high in driving and helping others to feel that way. Linda, what do you think?
Aiming high in driving?
Yeah, do you remember when you're learning how to drive? You were
looking far ahead.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
versus flying your car over them. That would be aiming really high.
Mountains. Yes, they taught us to fly.
I haven't heard it, but I got what you mean, and I love that analogy. I love it.
Well, switching topics real quick about driving, I was just reading some online articles that at the auto shows they are previewing these self-driving cars, and that they've had self-parking cars for a long time, and they want to introduce it to the public step by step. So I thought that was really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But today's topic about emergencies and things like that, we've talked in the past a lot about an entrepreneur multitasking, changing gears very quickly. I see an emergency situation just like that. It's just one more thing, bring it on, okay, how do I deal with it? Swapping this out for that. So
You
part
think
of
par
the,
for the course? It's just par for the course.
it is. And I think as entrepreneurs, we are much better prepared for emergencies than people that have to have a very rigid plan.
Uh-huh. I see your point. I do. I will say that sometimes I have a leap first and then look later at where I've just come from attitude. And I've always kind of been that way where I go headlong into a decision making process or headlong into an activity and then go, oh, now how do I accommodate or how do I make do with that? I tend to be more reactionary, more hasty, and I wonder if that really does fall under the category of somebody who's entrepreneurial as well. We've talked about the topic of kind of being scattered or ADD or multitasking, multi-focused, and I wonder if that really somehow comes into that or not, because I seem to be that kind of person, a switch gears fast. And actually there's an inside joke among my friends and my husband, which is they'll look at me and say, Julia, you're on page 42 and I'm back here on page 20. You know, they'll say, you've jumped ahead or you've jumped to a different chapter in the book. I don't know where you are. You've lost me. And I wonder, you know, if that kind of plays into it too. Again, just a thought, because that's kind of where it goes. But when it comes to an emergency, there are lots of things that we put into place. And I would like to hear from both of you some of the things that you have kind of created as safety nets
Mhm.
so that you have a contingency plan in place, and what those things are accounting for. Um, Personally speaking, financially, I've been thinking a lot about that. And I do want to share that a little bit with you all about how to make those kinds of contingency plans. But thinking back to growing up, I went to Catholic school and we had to wear a uniform. And one of the things that I've done as a contingency plan as a business person is to have a set of clothes always ready for the possibility that I might actually have a business meeting. And I know that's a silly thing, but it's
No.
always right there. It's the outfit that it's my go-to if there's a business meeting or I have to be dressed up, because I don't normally get dressed up. So do either of you have something like that going on?
I love that. I love that. And I wrote it down because I think that, there's some really good little tips here that all of us could use. What I began to write some notes when we first started talking about this, and what are some of the tools that you use that help? And of course this is a big one, and it's hard for me to imagine that there are people that are watching this that aren't already using a smartphone or a tablet of some kind. But if you aren't, or you're not using it effectively, get going on learning how, because you can keep so much in here. And you can, oh, I have to wait 20 minutes, I can check my emails. I'm just learning how to do this myself. So for you, that may be no big deal. But because I don't get back to my computer for 2 or 3 days sometimes, and people, you want to stay up to date when you can. And so a gift of time like that you can really use when you have something like this. And another one, of course, is for me, the key really is knowing what your priorities are, knowing what your values are. If you're not clear about that when you are given that wonderful gift of time, because it really is a gift, I mean, you can look at it that way, or you can look at it as, oh, God, my whole day is now screwed up because this thing that I thought I was going to do, I'm not going to do. If you know exactly what your priorities are in your life and in your business, which is your life, and vice versa, we don't want to separate too much. You will know, okay, well, these are the things that I'm working on, and so today I'm not going to do a hangout. Well, that would be okay because I can begin to do the copywriting for my webpage, or I can begin to call people for, the meeting we're having. There are other things that I can do because I know what I'm doing, versus I don't know what I'm doing if I don't have the one thought that I had planned to do in front of me. So taking the time to really identify your values and your priorities will really help you in those moments, in my opinion.
I think that's a brilliant idea, and I think that kind of goes back to a conversation we had once before about having an ongoing list so that you have something to refer back to in those stolen moments. Linda, what are some of the things that you do to really have, a backup, or do you do something like that? Do you have a backup? Do you make contingency plans?
Well, I recently moved from an external office back to my home. But when I was at the office, I always had that emergency outfit. Because I was close to downtown, things were happening. You could never tell when something was going to crop up, and it's like, all right, I'm there. Go grab that emergency outfit, put it on, I'm all set. So highly recommend it. And even if you work from home, you know, there's days where you haven't done laundry, you haven't done whatever it is. If you want to get out to that business meeting, have that backup. It's absolutely critical. I think the other really important thing to do is to have a team behind you. Because a lot of times, well, I've always been taught, say yes and then figure out how to do it later. And it kind of goes back to another conversation, bring it on, you want something done, ask a busy person, right? But having a team that you can count on to help pick up some slack when you just either become overwhelmed or an external event happens that you just aren't able to deliver as you said that you could deliver, that you aren't able to show up where you said you were able to show up. And it's important to have that plan. I know my prior roommate, she had a whole list on the refrigerator of all these backups and contacts and all this information that at one point I thought was useless. But it's like, you know what? In a crisis situation, 2 seconds, you grab the list, you have all the information, all the phone numbers of the people you might need to contact, or worse yet, someone else can contact them for you in the event that you can't. So whether it's personal or whether it's business, it all plays together.
Wow, that is really, really a good idea too. I absolutely love that idea. It reminds me of the babysitter list. You know, when I was a kid and I was a
Absolutely.
babysitter. Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of that. But then you think about it as an adult, I mean, you really need that. So some of you may know that I had a squirrel in my house and I didn't know what number to call. I completely panicked.
The squirrel number.
And I didn't know what to do. And I called every
You should
number.
have called me. I could deal with that.
Well, every number but the right one. I even ended up calling TTY. Like, this is not right. I mean, it was insane. It was like that panic moment, and I didn't know what to do. I just panicked. I knew to call animal control, but here in where I live, animal control is how to adopt your puppy. And literally, that was the only thing on the messaging for animal control. So anyway, what I'm getting at is I really love Linda's idea because having that list of numbers in front of you when something goes wacky, this is who you call. This is what you need to do. Even passwords, things like that. I think that's really genius, and I love having a backup plan. One of the other things that I learned a long time ago, and I don't know if either one of you do this, is I always have a little, almost like a little change purse size thing, like a wallet size thing, in my car. In my briefcase in my purse that's full of business cards. And I don't mean 3 business cards. I mean like a stack of business cards. Always have a stack of business cards with me because I never know where I'm going to be. If one of those stacks runs out, and this has actually happened to me. I went to an event and I was like, oh my God, I didn't even think to put that change purse into my wallet from the car. But I remembered it was in my briefcase. I had put a stack of business cards and I was carrying my briefcase. And it's funny, like, just to have something in place as a contingency plan is shocking. Now, I'm not talking about just planning for things that are happening, but I mean, or planning for time span. But, you know, if something's going to happen, what can I do to diminish the impact of this emergency situation? And that actually is the extension of the question. So I would like to pose a couple of emergencies that are business emergencies that may happen. And I'm just curious if we could brainstorm some solutions there. So one of them that I will share with you has not been something that's happened to me recently, but it did happen to someone I knew back in 1989 or 90. This particular person I admired tremendously, and she had been a client of mine, and she went out on her own. And when she did, she really only had 3 customers, and one was a major customer. And guess what happened? That customer decided to not use her anymore and take that service in-house. What happens when you lose 1/3 of your business one day? What is the contingency plan? How do we plan for that? So that is my question. I have an opinion of after this has been years. I mean, this was something that happened real, and it happened to me years ago, so it has never left me. But I do want to know, Sarah, what do you think? I mean, how
Well,
do you plan?
what I'm immediately thinking of, Julia, is something that a friend of mine named Julia told me once about kind of a different situation, but you could always do it, which is to sit down, take the time maybe right now to sit down and write down, 10 ideas for how you could make some money really fast. How could you make, what could you sell, what could you do, and you have that as a security blanket. That doesn't, you don't want to be living in that mode, hopefully, because that's the emergency mode. And I'm having trouble how we keep talking about emergencies, because I think a lot of these things are not really an emergency. What's happened for us today, we thought we were going to be recording something else. We realized we weren't. As a team, which is what I love what Linda said about having a team, we're like, okay, well, no big deal. Let's record it something else. What could we have for a topic? How about what we're dealing with right now? This is the way we can think and support each other. This is not an emergency. This is just adaptation and confidence that you have enough material, you have enough brains to figure it out. And if you can take that attitude, I think most things that people might call emergencies are not really a big deal. It's a perspective. Oh yeah, here we have, what is the word that Dr. Gruder uses? Wabi-sabi, the unexpected, we don't know. And it's an opportunity most of the time. We are now going to have this really cool backup video that we can use when we need to, or we might decide we want to use it because we like it so much right away with good material. Or we could have said, oh, dang, forget it, we're not going to record, and we could have been disgruntled and angry about what we thought was going to happen. Expectations screw you up a lot of the time. If you expected this, and you didn't get it, and you decide to be resentful and upset about it, it's just going to slow you down.
I agree.
I'm not answering your question very well, but I would make that list. 10 ways you could make some money fast if you needed to.
That's great. So you lose your biggest customer, and it's 33.333% of your business came from that one client, and you lose them today. Sarah's idea, do it today before that happens, right?
Yeah.
Sarah, is that what you're saying? Make a list. How can I make $10,000? How can I make $2,000? How can I make $500 today? That's and I personally love that, but you know why I love that. So Linda, what do you think? You've just lost your biggest account.
Well, I mean,
that's going to happen.
Obviously, what you don't want to do is wait till that happens. Mm-hmm. What you want to do is some planning on the other side of that. Mm-hmm. Whether you're working for one client, whether you're working for 3 clients, it really doesn't matter. This whole thing of multiple streams of income, residual income, passive income, they're all things that even if we're comfortable with the clients that we have, even if we have one of those 9-to-5 jobs, it's really something that we need to have in our back pocket is an alternate way to make money, because you don't want to be stuck in that situation. I know 10 years ago when I got laid off from my job, some people are thinking, oh, it's the end of the world. Your 100% source of income has stopped. What do you do? And that's when I started doing all these other things. And you know what? I just have not looked back at that single source of income again. That's not happening. So losing a third of the income's a piece of cake when it comes to the prospects of losing 100% of your income. So really urging anyone that's watching this, thinking about how they're going to survive in losing 33 to 100%, plan for it now.
That is awesome. And and Sarah, you were about to say something. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say plan for it now. It's happened to me. It's happened to Linda. I don't know if but it sounds like something similar happened to someone anyway. I think it's pretty much guaranteed, just like everybody on the planet, or in this country, is pretty much guaranteed to be in a car accident at least once in their life. I think it's pretty guaranteed that you're going to find yourself in some kind of financial problem at some point in your life. And so why not plan for it? And think about, what would I do? And, you know, maybe you want to do some of those things now so that you can have a sense of security that, okay, I have 2 streams of income, so if one goes away, I'll still have the other one. I won't be on the beach with nothing, stranded.
That's awesome. I think you both are absolutely correct. And, you know, it's really powerful to have a sense of, I know what I'm going to do in a case of emergency. And I'm talking about what, not a real emergency. I'm not talking about something that we perceive as an emergency. I'm saying,
Yes.
you know, a real emergency. What do I do if this happens? And a couple things have come to light in my life recently, but my husband works for a company where there were layoffs every single quarter from the moment I met him. And I said, do you have your resume done? And he said, oh, no, I think I did it before I got this job. I said, well, you've been there 12 years. So, or whatever it was at that point. So the first thing we did is we worked on that. Now, I'm not saying that only people with a job should have a resume. I think everyone should have a resume, because then it shows and it validates you as an entrepreneur and your skill set. So I would urge you for that, to have that. The next thing I said to him was, do you have a suit or a sport coat at least, so that if you had to go on an interview, if you buy it now before you need it. There was a company going out of business. We were able to get him a suit, you know, for a lot off and whatever. He was prepared. So we had that in place. I just am a firm believer in looking far off in the distance and saying, this is how I prepare. But when it comes to losing a big account, one of the things that I took away from that was to really evaluate my client base. And it was a couple different things. So this is kind of the things that I've done. One is I changed the way I build my clients from receiving just checks or getting one large lump payment from them to receiving ongoing residual payments, just like what Linda said, residual income. So I was receiving a steady stream of income. First mistake I made, I had everybody getting billed on the same day of the month. There was a lot of month left over at the end of that paycheck. So then I learned to split that up so that I have payments coming in every single week. Once a week is how I broke that down. The second thing that I really learned was to not let one account dominate any of my time or any of my income, and to spread it like a thin layer of butter over a very large piece of toast. That was the only thing I could say about it. And to go for a lot of small accounts. You know, a few small accounts were a good way to look at it. So that's, again, 2 cents.
And that's the same as multiple streams of income. That's the same principle.
Yes.
So if I lose Linda and Sarah as clients, I still have Mary Jo and Annabelle or whatever. And if I only have one, you know, it's like putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yes.
So it's great because, you know, we've been sort of targeting this hangout to the audience of people that are in network marketing, with the caveat that, at least in Sarah's opinion, everybody is in network marketing. You may be marketing yourself because you're going to the singles bars and you're building your network that way, but it's all the same thing, building your network of relationships. And this is why, you know, many people begin a network marketing business, because they see what's happening in the world. No guarantees. There hasn't been forever, but it's way clearer now in terms of jobs and employment, that you can't find this 40-hour week, you know, 40-year career anymore where you're going to be taken care of. And we used to say, okay, you can have me for 40 years, and you're promising that you're going to take care of me after that. And that was the deal. Well, the deal has been broken. And there's just no one out there that can guarantee you anything anymore. And really, that deal was never very legitimate anyway. So thinking about that emergency is, you know, that's a big one. That's one where if you were counting on working forever and all of a sudden your job disappeared and you hadn't thought about any of these things we talked about, I imagine, you know, that's a pretty dang scary place to be, and it can impact your health and your family in some major ways. So I encourage all of you that if you aren't thinking about it now, look at some networking marketing opportunities if that's in your world, because it may be a little bit of another stream of income for you, or a big stream. in case that happens. And if it doesn't happen, oh boy, you got some extra money. What's wrong with that?
I agree with you. What do you think, Linda?
When it comes to emergencies, knowing that you've got this backup plan, whether it's about your health, whether it's about your finances, whether it's about your kids or whatever it happens to be, I just think that's so important. And this Monday Momentum, just talking about it, has re-energized my thinking about it and some of the actions that I'm going to be taking in the future in the event of a real emergency.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Well, it's interesting. So I know we're getting to the end of our time, but I would like to say that one of the ways that I've been able to really put a good plan in place, and I do want to hear from Linda and Sarah on this, is that I like to ask this question: what is the worst that will happen? What's the worst thing that will happen? Tell me what that is. I can work from there, and then I can find the second worst thing. And it's the reverse of the priority, just like you said, Sarah,
Mm-hmm.
when you were doing prioritization about your time and what you want to get done. So here's the question. If I lose my job tomorrow, if I lose my biggest account tomorrow, what is the worst thing that will happen? Whatever it is, I'll lose my lover, I'll lose my health insurance, I'll lose my home, my dog will have to go live with somebody, whatever your thing is. And then what is the next thing? And then what is the next thing? And what is the next thing? My mom taught me that skill. She said, if you express literally your greatest fear or fears, then at least you have something to work with, something tangible, and something to overcome. And I am always amazed when I ask that question of someone else or myself, what is the real answer? It's never what you think it will be, whatever flirts out of your mouth or their mouth. It's surprising, but it helps you to grasp what you can do to allay those big fears. When I first started word of mouth, I had been selling furniture, and I'd been working in a place that was about, an hour in normal traffic, but it took 3 hours each way in rush hour. I'm sorry, an hour and a half each way in rush hour. So it was 3 hours of commuting time. So my brother-in-law and I worked at this company, and we decided to leave at the same time. And he said, I want to go out on my own. And I said, I do too. So he told me what he wanted to do, and I said what I wanted to do. And I looked at him and I said, you have a wife and children, where I don't. So we have different priorities. But if things got really bad, what would you be able to do to earn money? And he listed those 4 things off, and one of them was be a music teacher, because he was a music major in school. And I thought it was really interesting. Like, he really dug deep. He went like, I could be a waiter, I could do this, I could do, and really dug deep, because he had that before we even took the action of quitting the job. And I just think it's really great, because then you can look at your greatest fear and find your greatest asset. And I just love that idea. Being prepared.
Mentally.
Mentally, right. Knowing what you're going to do in case of a situation. So, do you ever do that, Sarah? Do you ever say what's the worst thing that can happen? And I mean, is
It's
that
a fabulous technique, and I do it. And there's a wonderful book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, which
that's
I
right?
recommend if you haven't read, because it helps you deal with that and then not get paralyzed by it. Because that's the danger when you look at things that cause fear. There's a negative twist to that, which is you get stuck in your fear and then you never do anything. So look at it and see it as an opportunity, and a little bit of plan. What's the worst thing that could happen? Well, the worst thing that usually could happen is I'm going to die, and oops, I'm going to die anyway. So okay, that's not so scary anymore. When you really look at it, and this is sort of Buddhist, but I like it a lot. You don't get to take anything with you. And you don't get to take anybody with you. When you go, you go. And the only thing that goes with you is how you behaved while you were here. Everything else, So, okay. People have survived losing their house. We know people have survived horrendous things around the planet. And, okay, then I'm just going to keep going and maybe, make some plans for what I'll do if that happens so that I can hang on to my house, hopefully, but not get all paralyzed and stuck in it, because things happen and we know that anyway. So developing that skill is sort of what I was talking about earlier. It's a perspective piece, it's an attitude piece, it's a confidence piece. You know you can do lots of different things. And if you haven't taken the time to study your skill set and really get a good feeling for what you're good at, you ought to do that too, because you're not just an engineer or whatever it is that you might think. There's a heck of a lot of other things that you are and that you can do.
Agreed. What about you, Linda? Is that something you do, or do you have a specific thing that you do for preparedness?
Well, I want to go back to touch on a couple of things Sarah said, and then back to your conversation about you drove an hour and a half each way. That is an opportunity, my dear.
Yes.
That is an opportunity for education.
Mm-hmm.
Have these things called, in my case, cassette tapes.
I don't even know what you're saying.
Most people have CDs.
Automobile University, right? It's true.
Absolutely.
But I will say I did get a lot of Tom Hopkins in on those days.
Exactly. That's why I don't mind going for a big long drive, because I get a good piece of education. I get to listen to this book. Yay.
But the thing is, that education, as we're moving forward, we're doing the same thing that we do every day in that commute or whatnot. If we are listening to these things, it is helping us plan for those emergencies, that if we lose that sole source of income or that primary source of income, our mind is expanded, and we are going to be able to do things that we need to do to bring us forward. So it's all good.
I love that. Being resourceful and responsive. I think it's awesome. Well, we really are at the end of our time, and I do want everyone to sign off. Please tell me again who you are, how I can find you, what it is that your specialty is, and what you're looking for in a client. Linda, can I start with you?
I am Linda Kay at lindakaye.com. I am an awesome website design developer and promoter, and if you need those services, ask a busy person. They'll take care of you.
I love it. Sarah? How do I find you, Sarah?
Well, I'm Sarah Coolidge out here in California, Lake Tahoe area. You can find me at ceospacewest.com. CEO Space is an organization that helps entrepreneurs. We help you close the gap from where you are to where you want to be, and we do that by education and support and mentorship. I just want to wrap up with a little minute today just to say, this is what I got out of this. We are a wonderful group of women, us three, how adept and amazingly adaptable we are. We just did a wonderful hangout that I think, we could talk for hours about this one topic and all the different juicy ideas. But to me, it was build your network. If you want to be prepared to suddenly have a right turn when you thought you were going forward, make sure you have a good, strong network of people that you really understand who they are, what they do, and how they might be able to help you, and vice versa. Know your own values. What is important to you? What are your priorities? What is it you're trying to do? And know your skill set. If you get those things taken care of, you're going to be in great shape. And so do that. If you haven't done it already, spend some time exploring those areas. And we'll see you next Monday.
That is fantastic. Thank you for that wrap up. Well, I am Julia Flinworry. You can find me at makesomemoneyhoney.com. If you need some help with your marketing strategy and you want to really catapult your business forward, get in touch with me, Julia Flinworry, at makesomemoneyhoney.com. And please join us again next Monday when we have another exciting new topic. We meet at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, once a week. Thanks so much and have a great week.
Yay, that was great.